Welcome into Pickle Palace. Welcome into OnIowa Live. If you're watching on KCRG 9.2, on our app, on kcrg.com, and of course on YouTube, welcome in. A busy show today. The Iowa women's basketball team earns a number 2 seed in the Big Ten tournament. The Iowa men take what is perhaps their worst loss of the season, and by definition, their worst loss of the Ben McCullum era. And we're going to answer the question, who made themselves some money at the NFL Combine or black and gold last year, and they're going to wear an NFL jersey next year. That's all coming up. Our guests today are David Eickholt from 247 Sports and Joanna Mance, Iowa's most famous mom. We're running it back, guys, and we're going to start with the Iowa women. Coming up, they're going to take on the one of 3 teams in the Big Ten women's tournament. But let's look back on the week that was, starting with Sunday and a big win over Wisconsin. It's Wisconsin. They're not the best team year in, year out, but you can't really take for granted beating your border rivals. Iowa wins 81-52. David, your initial thoughts?
Well, first of all, you need to remember this. Half of Iowa's team, since they've been born, they've never experienced Wisconsin being Iowa women's basketball. That's 32 straight wins over the Badgers. But I think perhaps the most encouraging thing about this performance was the fact that everybody stepped up. Yes, Hannah Stolke was out after suffering her injury against Illinois, and amazing she was able to finish that game. But look at Addie Deal. She had 3 assists, hit a big 3 as well. Chit Chat Wright, you love to see her get back going. 3 threes in that third quarter. And, you know, Iowa's going to need her moving forward. And how about Taylor Stremlow? I mean, what a homecoming for her. Tegan Mulaney, who has not played that much in this Big Ten season, puts up 10 points, 4 rebounds. She was absolutely fantastic, 2 steals as well. But then Ava Heighton, I mean, I just don't know what more you can say about her. I think she's all Big Ten caliber. Frankly, I think she's an All-American. But every role player and the depth piece that Iowa needed, somebody made at least 1 or 2 plays, and that's the exact momentum that you need when you get into Big Ten tournament play.
I thought the depth was huge, especially with Hannah Stolke, an upper body injury. Joanna, you're an insider, at least on this. Can you give us anything what do you know about that?
I know that Hannah is my daughter. No. In the Illinois game, she was going for a loose ball, had a player fall on her arm, her shooting arm. She did come back and play, so I think a lot of people were shocked that she then sat out of Wisconsin. But, you know, she's just dealing with some swelling. And so, you know, as soon as that goes down, she'll be back on the court.
All right. You understand why you sit out, and you see the great depth that Iowa has, but we hope to see her, of course, in the Big Ten tournament. Let's take it back in time a little bit more to a really nice win over Illinois. Illinois, you know, not the top 10 team that the win over Michigan was, but I think it was still impressive the way Iowa was able to fight down the stretch, especially in the fourth quarter. And they overcame kind of a weird night. Iowa was 28% from 3, and Illinois was super hot from behind the arc, led by Aaliyah Guyton. Iowa was able to pick up the win by 4. David, you were there. Joanna, you were there too. Your thoughts?
I mean, Ava Heighton, flu game. I mean, I know people before the game were talking about how kind of pale she looked. She had some bags under her eyes, had 4 first, half points. And Jan Jensen told us after the game that she took Ava in the locker room and she looked at her and said, "Hey, can you go? Can you not? I believe you're an All-American. There is no more time to rest. Can you go?"
Yeah.
She said yes. How'd she respond?
Good.
20 points.
The second half.
Absolutely fantastic. I mean, she's so unbelievable from this standpoint.
Yeah.
She wins the battle of the possession before the ball gets to her, and there's nothing that the defense can do. And for Heighton to take over like that, for Taylor Stremlow to play like that, and for Iowa just to be able to make the sort of stops that they needed despite Illinois, what felt like they were hitting everything, that's the exact game that you need to experience if you want to win big. Again, we talk about March. Play your best basketball, learn how to win in different ways. That's exactly what this Iowa group needed.
Yeah, 100%. I talked with Coach Randy. Randy Henderson is now the new Post whisperer. So Jan is the head coach, guys. She's not necessarily with the Post anymore. But I asked Randy if it was her plan to have that pick and roll with the Post, and she said yes. And that's been really exciting to watch Hannah and Ava connecting on that. It's just one of those new wrinkles in their offense that's really difficult to stop. I could say the same about Ava. She's an amazing player, but she does have a lot to carry around. I mean, at 6'4", I'm not going to guess her weight. I'd be way off anyway, but that's a lot, and so she's trying to learn and figure out what it means to play at this level. And so I think they're trying to fuel her better before and at halftime of games so that she can continue to play like the All-American we know she is.
That big-to-big combination, I don't really remember seeing it anywhere in the Big Ten. I'm not as well-versed nationally, but having a power forward and a center they're so good at just passing it to each other. It's a unique thing that Iowa had.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Hannah Stuelke, who I would assume after she had that upper body injury in the Illinois game, had some tremendous plays late down the stretch, and they didn't necessarily all include putting the ball in the basket.
Yeah, that steal that you just showed. I said to Hannah, man, that steal at the end of the game was great. And she said, thanks, Aaliyah. So those of you who don't know, Aaliyah played for the Hawkeyes last year and transferred to Illinois. Hannah just read her eyes and stole it. And then you see here's this screen and roll. I wish all the guards could screen and roll like that, but these two have just figured it out, and they've got a really good grip on it, So, yeah, you can see the sleeve there on her arm. That adrenaline was pumping pretty good, so she was still feeling good. Oh, yeah, and then knocked down 2 free throws. I love it. We used to say it's so pretty when she would hold that follow through. It's so pretty. So to see her holding it down was good.
Yeah,
good game.
Got that from Dad. All right, your thoughts on Hannah's performance, and then I know Ava Hayden had a tremendous day. You'd like to talk about too.
I mean, I think Hannah deserves a bunch of credit because this has been a 4-year storyline when it comes to Hannah Stuelke's free throw shooting. There's been a lot of frustration. I'm sure some nights where she probably didn't sleep or went right back to the gym to work on them, but she made them down the stretch. And Jan Jensen said after, when I asked her about, giving the ball to Hannah in that situation, she said, look, I was going to get killed if it didn't work out, but I just had a feeling. You talk about seniors stepping up when it matters most. Look at Kylie Feuerbach getting that late game charge to kind of secure the deal as well. It's seniors making senior plays and winning plays, championship winning plays on a team that's composed of 9 freshmen and sophomore.
Yeah.
And Taylor McKay being out for the season as well. So for Hannah Stuelke to kind of have that moment, to kind of get that, ovation from the crowd, I don't want to say it was long overdue, but I think it's kind of a storybook ending way of ending that senior night for what she's accomplished in her career.
And the last regular season game at Carver Hawkeye Arena against, there will be one, perhaps, I'd say likely, 2 more games at Carver. We just saw that 28-point performance from Ava Hayden. 20 points in the second half. There's something about Hayden that you're just so comfortable as a fan. Even if she's sitting on those 8 halftime points, she's going to figure it out. And in that chess match of the Big Ten, no other team has really, outside of UCLA, been able to figure her out down low.
Right. I think the best improvement that she's made is not to foul. Early in the season, she was plagued with so much foul trouble because she was just, I call it happy hands in the post. She was just trying to block too many shots and do too much stuff. And now, you are taller than most of these girls. Just stand behind them with your arms straight up. They're not going to be able to score over you. So that's been a good thing that Ava has really improved on as well.
I think the big thing for that, to add on to that, remember Addie O'Grady against Angel Reese. The best defense in that situation was you put your hands straight up, you keep your back straight, and you don't lean into her, and she'll probably miss the layup.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's happened.
Out.
With Ava Hayden and her defense this year. But I'd also point to this. Ava Hayden has flipped a switch mentally. She's got a killer mentality at this point where she will talk her smack to opponents when she gets the ball back-to-back on the block. And I know Jan Jensen brought up a story about, Megan Gustafson, probably the sweetest person that's ever come through the program. There was a game where they needed a big play, and they got in the huddle, and she said, look, just stab and twist the knife in. And everybody just kind of looked at her like a cartoon moment, eyes wide, being like, did she really just say that? But that's exactly the sort of emergence that you're seeing from Ava Hayden now. And again, she's going to be a preseason All-American next season. And I'll tell you, I could not name 2 or 3 posts better this season than Ava Hayden and what she's done on both ends of the floor.
The future is so bright. And it's not just Hayden. This entire group of sophomores has been fantastic. I've been really impressed by Taylor Stremlow, both on the court and off the court, because the thing about Stremlow is she was in a theoretical position to start at point guard this year. They bring in Chit Chat Wright, but Stremlow's been fine coming off the bench. Kylie Feuerbach goes out, then Stremlow comes in at the 2 position. She kind of does whatever her team needs, whether that's scoring, passing the ball. 11 points, 11 assists, 3 rebounds against Illinois. She's been super impressive.
I think so, and I also want to give credit to Jan Jensen for putting her in the starting lineup. Look, I'm still a big believer in Addie Deal. I think Addie Deal from freshman to sophomore is going to take a major leap. But the other aspect that gets lost with Stremlow in the starting lineup, they can move Chit Chat right to the off guard.
Yes.
So there's really no true point guard anymore with this Iowa women's team. And that's kind of taking pressure off of Chit Chat Right and it's taking pressure off Taylor Stremlo. Taylor Stremlo has struggled with turnovers throughout her career. In some games, 4 or 5, but she makes a handful of spark plays. She has 20 assists to 2 turnovers in the last, I think, 63 minutes or so of on-court time. She's been fantastic. A true 3-level scorer, somebody who was deer in headlights on the perimeter last season, to where if you put both hands in her face, guess what? She's still going to pull up, and it's probably going in. And if you don't, she's finishing at 82% around the rim this season, which is dramatically increased from last season.
Yeah. I love Strem. She did this move yesterday, and I said to her mom, she learned it from her mom. Her mom's a Hall of Fame Division I basketball player, so she comes from good stock. Then she missed the next one and got the rebound, and I said, oh, it looks like your dad. And her mom said, yeah, the air ball. So just funny, I'm not the only funny Hawkeye parent. There's others out there as well.
I have a question, Joanna, because you mentioned Madison.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? It's homecoming for Tegan Mulaney and Taylor Stremlo. Was it like they were celebrities there up in Madison?
It was. They after the game, they told us we had to go to Gate B, and we're standing out there. And Tegan's family and supporters all had blue shirts on. And it was really neat to see because you could see there's a sea of all these people, and you knew that they were her fans. But then the Stremlo family had a whole bunch of people as well. And so, the girls come out and they sign their autographs, and there was some stuffed animals exchanged between some young girls and the players. It's just really, it's always fun to see those things, to see the young women embracing, our Hawkeye women, and they're building memories that are going to last a lifetime. And some of them someday may be playing on a stage like this.
There's Stremlo had 300 plus family members in their own kind of private section at the Kohl Center too.
Yeah, they probably almost outnumbered the fans in Madison.
Yeah.
All right, we have next up the Big Ten Women's Basketball Tournament. No more regular season games. It's a hunt for a championship. We'll talk about it next on Iowa Live. All right, welcome back to On Iowa Live here at the Pickle Palace. The Alburnett boys wrestling team is here. A lot of purple in the back of Pickle Palace. We're really excited to talk to head coach Clayton Rush and the boys a little bit later on. But first, let's talk a little women's basketball. Iowa secures a number 2 seed in the Big Ten tournament, likely going to take on Michigan State, but it could be Illinois or, if the ceiling starts to fall down, Wisconsin. Iowa would love that. I feel like this sets up pretty well for Iowa. Should they win that opening game on a Friday, they're likely getting Michigan or Maryland, 2 teams that Iowa has already beaten. And I like their chances because a lot of what they do well is repeatable. What about you guys?
I mean, I think so. I mean, I think you look at what they did against Michigan State. I think Iowa stacks up very well against them. But again, I also look at Michigan, and I do not want to undersell Michigan by any means because I think Michigan is a Final Four caliber team. They are a tough team to kind of prepare for, the four-guard lineups and everything they can do. If I'm Iowa, I don't think you want to see Illinois again. I mean, I think in that sort of environment, I think the fan support would be pretty split because of how much Illinois and Iowa don't like each other. I think everybody's kind of put 2 and 2 together from that instance. But especially with the way that they were shooting from 3, I don't think they're able to guard Ava Hyen. But, Parchment's fantastic from Illinois as well. So the only team I really wouldn't like Iowa playing in any spot outside the final would be UCLA. But they're number 2 seed for a reason. They won 24 games for a reason. They are one of the best 10 teams in college basketball.
Yeah, I think I'm excited for the tournament. And I disagree with you on one point. It will be Carver Hawkeye Arena in Indianapolis, just so you know. It will be, the fans will be loud and they will show up. We will have a lot of people there. I've already heard from a lot, so if you haven't gotten your tickets, get them, head over there. But yes, I would prefer that Iowa plays Michigan State. I like the matchups on that better. But I think if we play Illinois again, it'll be a different game because I don't think they're going to make the type of shots that they did this last game.
They were tad hot, to say the least.
Yeah,
they had 9 straight threes in
percentage
the game.
Yeah, I was at the Michigan State game, and Grace Van Sluten got in foul trouble. I don't believe that would happen again. So realistically, I don't think it's going to be Wisconsin. If I'm an Iowa fan, I want to see Illinois again because of that point about the three-point shooting. That isn't necessarily as repeatable. By the way, Indianapolis, fun place to be.
Yeah.
The Taxman, which is under the bridge near Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Fantastic brewery and restaurant if you're going. All right, tomorrow, before the tournament begins in earnest, they're going to announce the Big Ten awards. There are 10 players on the first team All Big Ten. Because obviously you put 10 players on a starting lineup. Wait, hold on.
Yeah,
whatever.
that's right.
There are 18 teams. I guess it makes sense. For Iowa, though, you got to think their best chance at getting a first-team All-Big Ten player would be Ava Hyen. And if she does make it, that's how many years in a row? That's something like 9 years in a row Iowa has had an All-Big Ten member.
I believe 9 years, but at this point it should be a yearly occurrence with what Iowa's been able to, and that's a credit to Jan Jensen, it's a credit to Lisa Bluter. Ava Hyen, I don't know if you can name 3 or 4 better players in the Big Ten Conference, but people need to remember, like Lauren Betts is fantastic. Jelani Cambridge from Ohio State might be the nation's most underrated player. But again, Ava Hyen, you're not going to find a bigger fan of her than me. But the other aspect of this is Hannah Stolke needs to be first-team All-Big Ten. What she's been able to do from moving to the 5 to the 4, that high-low post action, the defensive plays that she's been able to make. Again, if you're drafting Big Ten players, you're asking a coach to draft Big Ten players, you are absolutely taking Hannah Stolke and Ava Hyen into the top 10.
Yeah, David, I agree with you on this one, 100%. Yeah, I think Ava will. My husband and I, because we're in it, we kind of have tampered our expectations that, there's a chance Hannah might not be first team All Big Ten. It is what it is. Sometimes it's just a choice of someone else that we don't like. But I think Hannah, offensively and defensively, is the complete package. She's not just scoring a lot of buckets, but she's getting down the rebounds and doing the things that she needs to do. And defensively speaking, I know we're going there, so I'm just going to say it. Kylie Feuerbach needs to be on the all-defensive team.
She should have been last year.
I heard it 100%. It wasn't on the mic, but yeah, David, let's make your case. Kylie Feuerbach, first team All-Big Ten defensive member, you got to think with the way she guards.
You're going to be able to find out who actually watches the games versus who looks at the box score at the end of the night, right? Mm-hmm. Kylie Feuerbach's never going to light up the stat sheet, but there's a reason why her matchups get completely shut down every single time. Look at what she did against Olivia Olson just a couple weeks ago. 13 points. Guess what? 3 nights later, she dropped 31 in a come-from-behind victory. No, and look at Juju Watkins last year. Yeah. Kylie Feuerbach was the only player to really shut her down for at least 15 or more minutes. Kylie Feuerbach, if you're talking about on the perimeter and the wing, ask Big Ten coaches, ask opposing players who you don't want one-on-one in those situations. Kylie Feuerbach's going to be first, if not second. So, again, we're going to find out who actually watches basketball versus who just claims they watch basketball and gets voting privileges.
Yeah, Joanna Mance, you watch every second of every game. Why is Kylie Feuerbach the best defender on Iowa and one of the 5 best defenders in the Big Ten?
Her athleticism is top-notch, but she's a great height, and her length is really good. But she's always, her whole career, she's watching for that ball, poking it out, diving on the floor. I've recently seen some Hannah Hidalgo highlights of her poking the ball out, getting steals. steals. Kylie does the same thing, and she's got, 4 inches on Hidalgo? Yeah. I mean, they're a little different in height. But anyways, Kylie is just one of those that she is going to sacrifice what she wants to do offensively to stop the girl defensively. And it's just not something that you see very often. A lot of times you'll see the opposite. People easing up on defense so they can give everything offensively. Yep. So, Kylie she's just a phenomenal player on the ball. And she's constantly nagging you. She's constantly there. She rarely leaves. She gets through screens. She's one of my favorites.
Remember what she did against Paige Beckers, too, a couple of years ago? In every matchup, there's a reason why she takes the opposing guard or forward. She's that versatile defensively. She wants the challenge, and she owns it.
Yeah. There's a selflessness about the way Kylie plays. Even as a 6th-year player, she's not getting the ball. She's often, scoring 2.5, 4.5, but obviously guard's the best player. And I'm never going to forget this because I think you were in the room with me last year. It was before the USC game. You asked me or I asked you, hey, next week, who's going to guard Juju? And I was sitting on the baseline during the USC game. After the first 2 possessions, I look over to the photographer next to me. I think it was Owen Sebring. I said, all right, that's our answer.
Yeah.
Again,
I think that was when people got a true appreciation for what she brings to the table because, look, let's face it, defense isn't sexy. Yeah. It is. It doesn't light up the stat sheet. But when you look at every single game, who the lead guard is, who the best player on the other team is, there's a reason why every single time Kylie Fierbach has matched onto them, they are well under average. Not just a little under average. Right. And they get so frustrated. Look at Britt Prince. I think Britt Prince is one of the most underrated players in America. Star guard from Nebraska. She only got 8 shots off. And it's not about, she was held in check. But she wasn't shooting a lot, and there's a reason why she wasn't shooting a lot. It's because Kylie Fierbach was in her grill, in her space, and dogging her.
Yeah. The one name we haven't brought up that I'm not sure she's going to win the award. Oh. But Jan Jensen has a really, really good case for Coach of the Year.
Agreed.
Big Ten ranks 5 teams in the preseason. None of them were Iowa. Jan Jensen as Iowa have a win over 3 of them. This number shocked me. 8 players appeared in 20 or more games for Iowa this season, so that does not include Taylor McCabe. 6 of them were underclassmen, and they are yet here they are, 2nd in the Big Ten, wins over Michigan. The win over Illinois was impressive. The only 2 blemishes really are UCLA, USC, or 3 blemishes with Minnesota. Do we think Jan has a chance? She certainly has a case.
She's got a case. It's going to be Corey Close from UCLA.
Come on, they bought their team.
They brought back all the seniors, but that's the way a lot of these awards work. But if you look at the body of work, 9 of Jan Jensen's 13 players are freshmen or sophomore. Yeah. Iowa last season was a double-digit seed. They brought back everybody. They added some new pieces in the portal, but it's still their first year in the program. They are now a top 10 team in the country, and they were number 2 in the Big Ten. They've won big games in neutral environments. They've gone on the road. They've protected their home court. Minnesota, by the way, after they beat Iowa, has gotten red hot. Yeah. They're a top 4 seed. I may have missed the mark on my thoughts about them prior to that game. But Jan Jensen is undoubtedly, in my opinion, a top 5 to 6 coach in college basketball, despite this being her 2nd year as Iowa's head coach. Because if you lose Lisa Bluter, you lose Kate Martin, you lose Caitlin Clark, probably the most recognizable player in women's basketball history, this program did not die off. Correct. And why did they not die off? Coach it's because of Jan Jensen and her program.
Not even close to a continuation of a Lisa Bluter, Caitlin Clark era. Yeah. Give it up for Joanna Mance, everybody. We're going to talk about Iowa men's basketball coming up next. Welcome back to Pickle Palace and on Iowa Live. David Eickholt from 247 Sports continues his run on the show. And with the Iowa men's basketball team, we like to lead with the good stuff, but we have to lead with this. Iowa 69, Penn State 71. And let's get to an audience question because Iowa is going to have to answer it. And I think we're going to need to answer it by the end of the block. Eugene asks, what do the men need to do to improve our seed in the NCAA tournament? Well, it starts with not losing to Penn State. PSU is 125 in the net, so it's a quad 2 loss, but it's 11 spots away from being a pretty devastating quadrant 3 loss. Iowa's still going to be in the tournament, so we don't necessarily have to talk big picture. Let's talk little picture first. Penn State, this is an basically empty, quiet Bryce Jordan center, and yet Iowa loses by 2. What are your takeaways?
I mean, I go back to what Ben McCollum said post-game. He just said, look, we kind of are who we are at this point, right? Like, Iowa has had 3, I would say 2 inexcusable games and 1 where they probably should have won. They probably should have beaten Minnesota. The inexcusable games, you can't go lose to Maryland on the road. They're garbage this season. You look at Penn State. They're garbage as well this season. But again, it's the Big Ten. You still have to show up. You still have to take care of business. But the big thing with Iowa that has been a common trend outside of just being on the road, they struggle with quick, athletic guards with an explosive first step. Because Iowa doesn't have the athleticism on the perimeter to keep up with them defensively, as sound as Ben McCollum's system is. And they don't have a true rim protector. And that was kind of my big concern heading into the year, outside of probably the three-point shooting a little bit, kind of that off-guard role. But Iowa, I mean, Cam Manuel, Alvaro Fulgaris maybe, but like those 2 guys are not true rim protectors. So I think teams have started to recognize that. I think teams have started to exploit that. And I'll tell you, the last team I would want to play, it's the next game. It's against Michigan, who has 7'4", skill, size, talent, all across the board. And for my money, is going to be the next champion in men's college basketball by the end of the season.
Yeah, it looked tough against Penn State in a lot of senses for Iowa. 60%, that's the number Penn State shot from behind the arc. And David, frankly, at some point, it's not a numbers game. It's a closeout game. You have to be better on closeouts. And the thing you mentioned about the quick guards for Iowa, it leads to quick passing around the arc. I actually saw it when I was at the Iowa State-Texas Tech game shooting that game. A lot of quick passing from the Red Raiders. Same thing here for Penn State. They shoot 60% from behind the arc, and they had far fewer possessions. Let me actually look at this. Yeah, Iowa had 57 shot attempts. Penn State only had 39. Penn State was obviously a lot more efficient. It kind of like it makes you hit your head against the wall. Like, how do you lose a game like that?
I'll tell you, and I want to preface this by saying this. I think Ben McCollum is one of the top 5 basketball minds in college basketball. Like, he is undoubtedly extremely admired on every level. I thought this was the first game where Ben McCollum looked average.
Okay.
I thought some of his decision-making in that second half, I especially look at Brendan Hawson, right? Brendan Hawson did not get much run. He's been played sparingly throughout the Big Ten Conference, but then he played 4 minutes in that first half. He played 11 minutes in that second half. And when he was brought to Iowa, it was for what? His outside shooting. He's one of the deadliest shooters from 30-plus feet. Probably one of the only people that has Caitlin Clark range when it comes to shooting the basketball. He was just ineffective in those 11 minutes. He's not as good of a defender as like an Isaiah Howard or a couple other pieces. I thought he played far too long in the second half based on what he was being able to give. And then on that final possession, remember, it was tied at 69. Ben McCollum made a couple of adjustments. Isaiah Howard had not been in several minutes. And then Iowa's defense gets mixed up. They trip over one another, and they essentially dive at the legs of the Penn State guy driving. And I'll tell you, that's a foul every single time. Again, Ben McCollum is the right guy for Iowa. He's an elite coach. This was the first game where I think he's really going to look back on film and say, man, I really wish I had done a couple things different.
Well, we'll see. A tough way to change it because you got Michigan coming up, number 3 in the country. Big positive here was Cooper Koch, who led the Iowa in scoring, had a career-high 18 points, made, I think, 5 of 7 from behind the arc. We're thinking about who is that second shooter for Iowa. It looks like perhaps it's Cooper Koch, who had a great day against Penn State. And stretches of brilliance, the question has been consistency, right? But have you liked what you've seen from him?
I mean, yeah, because I think you look at the fundamental tools that he brings. One, his defense is far better than I thought it was going to be. this year compared to last year. But I also look, when you talk about great shooters across college basketball, you look at their release, you look at their foundation, you look at the consistency in terms of the arc, in terms of the shot selection, the quality. Cooper Koch does not take bad shots. Every single shot that he gets, for the most part, you would beg him to take time and time again. He's going to be a guy who still has 3 years of eligibility. I'm a big believer in him. You have to be encouraged. It really wasn't a matter of if he could do it. It was really about a matter of when he was going to do it. And it was really nice, despite the horrible resume loss, that Cooper Koch got going. Because if you have him and Bennett Sturts shooting the ball very well down the stretch, they are going to be tough to beat ultimately.
You figure with the way Cooper Koch shoots the ball, maybe in the offseason, Brad Underwood gives his agent a call and has him join as the Europeans in his home state of Illinois. But that's a long ways away. All right, the positive from last week was the win over Ohio State. And Iowa, after a slow start, looked fantastic against the Buckeyes. Final score there was 74-57. What makes the loss against Penn State so head-scratching is Iowa was able to overcome a bad shooting day. They shot only 28% from behind the arc, and Ohio State was 50% from three. So I'll put it to you simply, what went right against Ohio State that didn't translate to Penn State?
I mean, I think it's the defense. Because remember, against Ohio State, they came right out and punched Iowa in the mouth. Iowa got down, 14-2 in the first 3 minutes. Ben McCollum called a timeout. And when we asked him about his message to his team after the game, at that timeout, he said, "Don't play so bad." Well, guess what? It worked. Elite coaching right there, because Ohio State did not, I believe they were held without a field goal for the next 9 minutes. And you saw Iowa's offense get going. Alvaro Fulgaris, who has been Iowa's X factor the entire season and will be down the stretch, to get those 20 points with his brother in attendance and to showcase that sort of versatility that we believed he was going to bring to the table all year long. I thought that was fantastic. But ultimately, when it comes to March, 3 things have to translate: elite coaching, defense, and elite point guard play. Iowa has all 3. Will they be able to put it together down the stretch of the Big Ten tournament? And ultimately, I know some people are worried about it, they are making the NCAA tournament, barring the craziest set of circumstances. People are arguing for Auburn, who's 16-15 or 15-14 to make the tournament. Like, what are we doing? The bubble is garbage. Iowa already has 20 wins. They're going to make the NCAA tournament.
Now, Michigan has locked up a number 1 seed, so perhaps that gives Iowa a better chance if maybe Michigan lets off the throttle. We'll talk about it more next week. All right, coming up next, talk a little NFL scouting combine on Iowa Live.
Welcome back to On Iowa Live. I'm Justin Roberts, along with Becca from Elite Fitness and Ability Physical Therapy. Becca, why is it important to have athletic trainers at high school events?
It's important to have athletic trainers at high school events because
Welcome back to On Iowa Live. I'm Justin Roberts, along with Becca from Elite Fitness and Ability Physical Therapy. Becca, why is it important to have athletic trainers at high school events?
It's important to have athletic trainers at high school events because we're there to keep the kids safe. If anybody gets hurt, we're the first responder there to get them the help that they need.
What's the difference between a physical therapist and an athletic trainer?
The big difference is our clinical setting. So I'm typically on a football field, basketball court, in the dugouts, whereas a physical therapist is in the clinic.
And let's talk about some of the different schools that you guys serve around the area.
Yeah, we serve Marion, Centerport Urbana, Springville, Lisbon, and North Cedar.
Gotcha. And of course, next question. If schools would like your guys' service to learn more, how can they get a hold of you?
They can go to our website at chooseabilitypt.com.
All right, Becca, thank you much. Appreciate it.
All right, welcome back to On Iowa Live. David Eickholt from 247 Sports is with me. We talked hoops earlier. If you want to rewind, if you're on YouTube, you can certainly do that. Women's hoops with Joanna Mance and men's hoops as well. All right, we start with a question from Eugene, and Eugene asks questions basically every week, but this one might be my favorite. Eugene asks, who made themselves the most money at the NFL Scouting Combine this week in Indianapolis? I will pose that question to you, David Eickholt.
I mean, I think you got to start Logan Jones. He had the fastest 40-yard dash from offensive lineman at 4.9 seconds. And I think people have kind of laid off the arm's length when it comes to Iowa centers because people criticize Tyler Linderbaum, and guess what? He's on pace to be the highest paid center in NFL history this next offseason. He's going to be garnering nearly $20 million a year. And that's what Iowa's been able to do, right? Logan Jones, I do believe, is going to be a starting center next year. And spoiler alert, Cade Peeper's going to be a starting center in the NFL as well whenever he's able to get there. And then I think you look at Jennings Dunker. Nobody made more marketing dollars than him with that beautiful red mane that he has flowing behind him, what he was able to do. His size, strength, athleticism. Look, Hawkeyes were across the board and a popular school name in the NFL Combine. I think they all did a pretty darn good job. And they're going to be a popular school to hear when the NFL draft actually comes, which is still crazy. It's 6 weeks away still.
It's incredible. All right, with Logan Jones, who I wanted to bring up first, that 4.9 second 40-yard dash, do you need to be fast as an offensive lineman? No, of course. But it shows that that speed, which translates to athleticism, explosiveness. And if you look at Logan Jones, you might not necessarily see it on the field, but he is an absolute freak in the weight room and on the practice field, in the turf. I believe he was on Bruce Feldman's freaks list for The Athletic, along with Cade Peeper. Logan Jones is going to make money in the NFL. And I think another good thing about Jones that you won't see at the Combine, but NFL teams and general managers will see, he's a great talker. He's a captain for a reason. You're going to want him on your team. I think it's a classic example of a smart team is going to draft this Hawkeye. You could basically say it every single year.
Yeah, I mean, he's a grown man. And give a big shout to Nebraska because he wanted a scholarship from Nebraska, but he said that he wasn't big enough. Well, now he's arguably one of the best centers that's come through the Big Ten over the past decade. But, again, you got to give a lot of credit to Kirk Ferentz, give a lot of credit to George Barnett because, remember, he started his career as a defensive lineman, and then he flipped to center. And, by the way, you talk about having pressure. This was after Tyler Linderbaum went to the NFL and is now as big of a deal as he is. Same number, multi-sport athlete out of high school in Iowa, started out as defensive lineman and flipped to center. The comparisons were uncanny, and I'll tell you, 99% of players would not have lived up to what Logan Jones did, especially after what Tyler Linderbaum accomplished.
All right, let's talk about that hair. Mike, can we see the AP photo, please? Jennings Dunker was flowing through. His hair was absolutely
They did a slow-mo of his 40-yard dash, and Rich Eisen, NFL legendary commentator, radio host, everything else, was gushing over it. I mean, just the most precise detail you have ever heard in your entire life. It was like a poet speaking magic. People might draft him simply because of the hair, but I'll tell you, I don't think you've ever seen a more six-time All-Pro written all over him. From Iowa, he's got the hair, he's got the look, he's got the personality, and on top of that, his name is Jennings Dunker.
Yeah.
Like, that's just a perfect combination of a nasty NFL offensive lineman.
Yeah, and I think the marketing is going to obviously do wonders for him. But the thing about Dunker is he's more than just marketing. He'll probably get a commercial in his rookie year or his sophomore year in the NFL. But if a team drafts him, they're going to get a really good road grader of an offensive guard, or possibly a tackle. Likely he'll kick inside to guard. I've been so impressed with Dunker's growth, just like Logan Jones. He didn't start in a great place, but Dunker, his ability to grow as a lineman was fantastic. And you watch every game, basically of Dunker's career, came from a small school, Lena Winslow, and really grew quite literally and mentally as well into being one of the best linemen in the Big Ten. Going to make some money in the NFL.
I mean this with all due respect. James Dunker, by the way, is incredibly brilliant. Like, he is a smart guy. But I remember him talking about when he got offered by Iowa. Iowa was at his high school looking at, I think, Isaiah Bruce at the time. And then all of a sudden, and I quote from Seth Wallace, this goofy kid with giant feet walks in. He had like size 18 feet. And he was just like, who's that? And they immediately started talking to him. And then James Dunker almost committed on the spot after being offered by Iowa. Guy doesn't use social media. He flat out said in his NFL Combine interview, you cannot pay him enough money to leave the University of Iowa. He doesn't care what schools would have been interested or what he would have gauged. It was a perfect fit. And again, that's what something Kirk Ferentz has built his entire career on and this program on. You get the right fit. You adjust with a new school twist of the transfer portal and of NIL. But ultimately, if you don't have culture of guys that can fit and work together toward the same goal, it's not going to happen. Jennings Dunker was the old school definition of a perfect Iowa Hawkeye football player.
Real quick, your thoughts on perhaps the most impressive defensive player on that field in Indianapolis, Xavier Nwampa.
Yeah, Xavier Wampa. So there's a scale they use that's relative athletic score, and it measures every single player from the combine. They rate him against their position. Xavier Wampa had a 9.95 athletic score out of 10. That is number 7 out of 1,242 strong safety prospects over the last 30 years of the NFL. I think his athletic prowess is no doubt. I think he has to continue to work on his ball instincts. But if you talk about a violent tackler in the box and kind of that old school, maybe Baltimore Ravens, kind of that Bob Sanders style safety, he'll hit you and you're going to feel it.
Yeah. All right. David Eickholt from 247 Sports. Thank you for joining me. We'll have the Alburnett boys wrestling team on next on Iowa Live.
One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. Did I do that too fast?
Welcome back to On Iowa Live. We're here at Pickle Palace, and a full house is in the building, thanks in part to this guy, Clayton Rush of the Alburnett boys wrestling team. The Pirates took home third place at the state boys wrestling tournament last week, or 2 weeks ago, I should say, in Des Moines, and they did it moving up to 2A. And I believe that's 4 straight years, Coach Rush, of you guys bringing home some hardware from state. How do you get consistency in your program? We're year in and year out. Guys go to state. You get a bunch of qualifiers. You had 8 at state this past year. A lot of coaches are chasing the consistency that you guys have.
I mean, that was something that we've had since I've been here. This is my 11th year here, and that was a foundation of this program and the community when I got here. So it was something that I had to sustain. And throughout there, you make it your own, and but you just have the buy-in from just not just the wrestlers and the athletes, but their families and the community. Was
there any adjustment made going from 1A to 2A? Obviously, the weights are all the same, but the schools are a little different.
Yeah, there was like 6 1A schools that went up to 2A, and if two of them were in the top 5, this year. So the adjustment was that the 2A athletes that we wrestled were deeper. We wrestle. You get down to 7th, 8th blood round type matches, and those were some pretty stellar athletes. Where in 1A, you're the level of athlete that you face probably not as high level.
Well, that kind of leads into the next question, because your guys performed pretty well in the blood round, and you ended up having 5 on the podium. Even if it's not first place, and I know all these guys, they want to get their hand raised at the end of this. What does it mean to see a purple jersey or a purple sweatsuit on the podium have 2, 3, 4 every single year?
Yeah, you just mentioned the blood round right there, and we didn't win them all, but Cooper Franklin sticks out in my head, where you can ask him. 8th place isn't something that he's real happy with, but in the bracket that he was in, it was the depth of that bracket was impressive, and for him to come home with a medal and he had to win 2 gritty, gutsy matches to be on the podium, so he should be very, very proud of that. To your point of it being some good depth in 2A.
Incredibly, you have 6 underclassmen of your 8 who made it to state. The future looks bright. Did you expect this kind of wrestling, frankly, from your guys, including your state champion there, Egan Fleshman, who's only a sophomore? They're really ahead of schedule, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I have an expectation for them, and it's pretty high, but I can say that they have a similar, if not higher, expectation of themselves. Yeah.
There you go.
Which makes my job easy and a lot of fun. There's another one.
What did that mean? That maybe not how it felt, the body slam there, but what did it mean to have your sophomore cap off the night at 285, winning a state championship?
I just think it shows you how much emotion goes into wrestling, and you get fired up and your adrenaline's going, and something takes over. And he told me before, I'm going to throw you, and I requested that he didn't. He went with it anyway, and he put me down pretty hard. But, again, it just goes to show the emotion that goes into wrestling and a lot of other sports too. But this is a pretty combative sport, and like I said, emotions tie high.
Yeah. All right. Coming up next, we're going to have all 8 state qualifiers and the rest of the Pirates up on stage on Iowa Live.
Yep, Egan Fleshman. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Atlee, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Welcome back to On Iowa Live here at Pickle Palace, and all these purple sweatsuits on stage can only mean one thing. The Alburnett boys wrestling team is here. We have a couple of gentlemen on the mic. Can you please introduce yourselves and tell me your year in school?
Yeah, I'm Egan Flushman, and I'm a sophomore at Alburnett.
I'm Atlee DeWitt, and I'm a senior.
All right, Atlee, I want to start with you because you're the senior. You're the lone senior who actually qualified for state. What does it mean to bring all your underclassmen, especially, to state with you and have a big crew at state?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of underclassmen that made it. Six of them were. Me and Cooper were the only upperclassmen. And it's pretty cool. Like, this team was a little different than previous years, and it was nice to be, like, the older person on the team.
Egan, you came into this program last year. Obviously, you're a big wrestler, grow up wrestling. I'm sure grow up looking at what Coach Rush has done. What does it mean to add to that foundation that Coach Rush was talking about a little while ago?
I think it's just pretty special to me to add to a big list of great Alburnett wrestlers and to be a part of a list of state champions on that list.
Yeah, you've of course joined that list. Egan Flushman, our 285-pound state champion. You beat Lucas Fierbach of Solon for a third time this year. Yeah. What did that win mean to you, and what did the emotional moment with your coach mean after you to you as well?
Obviously, it was pretty special to win the state title, but especially against him, beating him for a third time in a row. Yeah, and the moment with Rush after, it's just kind of all the emotions through the seasons before this and this season, all the ups and downs, just all coming to a close and celebrating that final win.
I know Coach requested no body slam. So were you doing it any way, shape, or form?
Yeah.
You're going to win body slam, Coach?
In my mind, it was just I'm doing it no matter what. So.
I think it was worth it. I wanted to ask you the same question I asked Atlee. What does it mean? Obviously, you get the win there. That's great. But you're standing on the podium with your brothers, too. 5 of them on the podium, 8 of them at state. What does it mean to bring a big group to state? It's not just 1 or 2 guys, 1 or 2 stars.
It's pretty cool to cheer on your buds, especially when you have to carry the momentum if one of them loses. You kind of have to carry just a weight of coming with a win, and it helps the momentum with them going into the next round and fighting another battle.
We have this guy right here, Clayton Rush, who's actually just recently an NWCA Division III Hall of Famer. Congratulations, by the way. What do you guys learn from a 4-time All-American in college? Because a lot of you guys want to grow and be like Coach Rush.
It's a pretty good example to look up to. Discipline and going out there and fighting every match. He kind of shows that every day in practice and brings it every day. So yeah.
Atlee, same question.
He's just somebody that you want to wrestle for. Like, you go and put it on the line every time for him, and that's kind of the culture we have as a team.
I do want to ask about state wrestling as wrestlers. We see it as media, obviously, every year, and coaches and parents see it, but it's one of the most famous state tournaments in Iowa, in the country, really, for a reason. Why is it so special from your perspective, getting to wrestle at the Casey Center? It used to be Wells Fargo Arena. What is that perspective like for you?
As a kid, it's what you dream of as a wrestler, like going out to state and just competing, and especially growing up in Matt Pack or the little Alburnett club. You want to wrestle with that purple singlet on.
Yeah, and Egan, same question. Not only do you go, but you fulfill your dream of winning the whole thing.
Yeah, I think it's just the atmosphere. I've seen videos online of other state championships, and it's kind of just like a smaller gym, not as many people. But at the Iowa State tournament, you got 13,000 people cheering you on. So yeah.
Guys, what is your favorite part about coming to wrestling Atlee, let's go with you first. Your favorite part about coming to wrestling practice every day, because it's not easy.
It's not easy, but, we have a lot of fun, and we listen to some good music, like Gangsta's Paradise.
On repeat.
Some songs like that.
Same question, Egan.
To build off of him, it's just a fun environment, especially, we joke around at the beginning of practice, but when it comes time to work, we get to work.
I got to ask my favorite question I ask wrestlers. You just finished off your state tournament. What's the first big meal you guys have after cutting weight for so long?
Well, Egan doesn't cut weight, but we normally get some pizza and ice cream,
Atlee's leaving out his favorite dish of donuts.
Of donuts?
Yes.
Why are you leaving that out? I love donuts.
Krispy Kreme.
Krispy Kreme. They have one in Ankeny.
They didn't.
He knows where they're
DoorDash.
at.
Say that again, Atlee.
They didn't DoorDash.
They didn't DoorDash. That's brutal.
Yeah.
Well, that's tough. You're in a hotel. I mean, it's so much fun to be in that hotel and to be on the mat with your guys, right? Are those the type of memories you take away from this? It's not just on the mat. It's also just with your guys, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, after the finals, we came back and we had a few pizzas, and then we just headed to McDonald's and had a few Shamrock Shakes. So it was it's pretty memorable. And then we sat in the hot tub till 12 o'clock at midnight.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those are definitely some of the things you bring away with it, especially the van rides. You have to listen to this guy's interesting music taste. But even the speakers didn't work in the van, so we had to go buy like a Bluetooth speaker from the store.
Okay.
And listen to it on the van
true.
rides there and back. So yeah, it's definitely not just the wrestling memories. There's definitely way more to it. So.
These guys have fun and they're good wrestlers. Proof that you can do both. Guys, I really appreciate you guys coming to stage on Iowa Live. The future of Alburnett boys wrestling looks very bright. Thank you to Joanna Mance, David Eickholt for joining me earlier. Thank you all. Same time, same place next week on Iowa Live.